All right, so greetings. We are live. I am from Freeport, Grand Bahama. I'm currently in my hometown. It's a beautiful place. The energy that runs across this island is so sacred. I wish a lot of our brothers and sisters really would get into some of this cultivation. I'd be trying to throw it out there on Facebook, but it's difficult because when you so caught up in the hustle, in just the day-to-day hustle, you know what that is, man. That the chase for the dollar really can consume your life. And honestly, that's what I think it's for. It really can consume your life, and you could live your whole life without really knowing what it really truly is all about. Okay? Now, before I even get into the class, the whole purpose of why I put this together was that we've been hoodwinked, so to say. And I think all of us know that, especially now in 2020, right? Now, we grew up in countries, we grew up in communities, right? And they weren't really communities per se, but we were raised in schools and institutions that were actually indoctrination camps, all right? And these indoctrination camps were masked as educational institutions. Our curriculum was created came right from the Vatican. And our ancestors were conquered. You see, so you have to think that if your ancestors, there was a lot that went on in history, as you know, and if our ancestors were conquered, then that means the leaders of our society, the leaders of our community, the ones that hold power over the government, they are the conquerors of our ancestors. And it gets really weird because we don't even know how it feels to live without the enemy. Because the food, even here in the Bahamas, almost all the food's imported. You see, so there's some sacred knowing that we lost along the way due to this indoctrination, the indoctrination camps he was put under. And and of course, I'm saying things that you guys already know, but what really, see, this is the thing. Out of everything they hid from you, what really was the thing that they really didn't want you to know? Because when you go on YouTube, you go throughout social media, you got a lot going on. And I can be real with you. The Jesuits, the one that work under the Vatican, they intentionally put out information and knowledge to send you on a wild goose chase. You see? So there's a lot of books that have truths mixed with lies. And that's just what it is. And I'm not saying that I'm 100%. I can't say that. I'm human, right? But what I can say is that this is the foundation to what they talk about in the esoteric journey, in the what you call the occult, the hidden world, the hidden knowledge. And the biggest secret in life is who and what you are. And you'll get into that. So, greetings. This is session 1, Immortal Humans, the psychology and practices of the immortals or longest living known yogis in the world. And I tell you, the minute you even say the word immortal, the phrase immortal humans, you already have some people like, come on, like, really? Because it's not spoken about. It's not something that you just sit, in a group of people and people are saying that this don't even exist. Well, guess what? There are a peculiar set of human beings. They're not extraterrestrials. I mean, there's a part of us that's that, right? They're not some supernatural being that came from the outer world and come. No, they are higher brothers and sisters. Okay? So let's get into it. Very peculiar set of humanity. So welcome, family. And this is from a book. So in the class, there's certain readings that we put you on to. So this is a book, God, Man, the Word Made Flesh. There is an automatic procedure within the human body, which, if not interfered with, will do away with sickness, trouble, sorrow, and death. As stated in the Bible, truly, mankind, or the natural man, seeks many ways and means to prevent the upright, perfect, automatic way from accomplishing that whereunto it was sent. The natural man forever seeks pleasurable sensation, which is at enmity with God. Man has turned the mighty power he possesses to every object and principle of force in the universe except himself. The greatest miracle of all. When man focuses his divine thinking lens upon himself, he will realize that he is an epitome of unlimited cosmic energy. Then the heavens will roll together as a scroll and will reveal the real man as the Lamb of God that take away the sins of the world. So there's something inherent in you that's constantly trying to build you back to perfection. Okay? So within the cell, okay, that what we call detoxification or disease is a fine tuning, is a calibration trying to build you back to what you fell from. Because there are some people that believe we evolved to this state. But when you go deeper into the truth, you'll realize that humanity went through a series of devolution, okay? Devolution from a more spiritually in tune, a more higher consciousness. But the cells, the inherent intelligence within the cells are constantly trying to build back the avatar, okay? So before we get into anything, I just want to pay homage to the elders that really made an impact on my journey. And this is the most widely known, Phil Valentine. I don't know if you guys know of him, but Phil Valentine was one of the founders of the conscious community in New York, up in Brooklyn, and he's very well known. I took his, I actually was his private student. We did online sessions. I was a part of his online university. This is me. This is him and my queen to the left. We went and we met with him in Atlanta. And it was Phil Valentine that kind of broke down and was almost like the transcriber for the somatic cells. And he, transcribed beautifully as a spokesperson for the cellular intelligence and as to why we die, okay? Because there is a reason we die. And the ancient progenitors that designed the human body, because there are beings that engineered the human genome, they did not design the body to die, okay? The body is designed to live and to live for as long as you want it to. Okay, so I could say for eternity, but for as long as whatever suits your purpose. All right. So much love to Phil Valentine. This right here, if you're on Facebook and you already kind of been on this path, this is Elatom Elamine. He is actually a breatharian. One of the, I'll say, most coming open ones that I know of. He's spreading the breatharian knowledge. And for anyone, the term breatharian is someone that lives without food and water. They do eat and drink, but it would be mainly for entertainment purposes. Okay. So we're going to mainly get into what did Ella Tom do along with others to even get to that point where the cell transcribed itself to where it didn't need to thrive and eat. Okay, so much love to Ella Tom. Definitely transcribe to his YouTube, subscribe to his YouTube channel. All right. So let's continue. And family, this brother here, actually, I'll say, made the most impact out of any of the other brothers in, actually in my life. I actually dedicate this university to him. All right. And his name is Wade Hinsey. He was in the military. And if anyone watched the podcast that I just recently did, I do bring up a brother that was in the military that put me on to literally everything. I was 19 years old. I didn't know anything. He was the one that sparked my mind to go deeper than the herd. And that's, and if you watch the podcast, I brought up how he talked about the military technology was damn near 90 to 100 years ahead of our time. And they would reverse engineer it and dilute it before they introduce it to the human population. And they would also use TV. TV was the main thing with predictive programming, where they would use shows like the Jetsons, certain shows that would open you up or prepare you to before they start to introduce this technology. As you remember on the Jetsons, they were talking to each other on screens before we even had Skype and even, DVDs and stuff like that. You see, so, but one thing he hit home was that they use the technology for mind control, and this technology is weaponized. And there's certain individuals that's targeted all over the earth. There's a book, I can't remember the name of the book, but I think it was written by a CIA agent. And he talks about how there's technology that they use, that they weaponize, and they target individuals and torture them mentally, psychologically, and emotionally. And they use these individuals almost as Manchurian candidates. If you ever watch that movie with Denzel Washington, Manchurian Candidate, they use these individuals as assets. They're called CIA assets, where they could actually trigger them to start chaos in a community. Just like how they use these assets to go run up in a school, shoot up a school, a movie theater, a church, but it would be some political action behind it to gear humanity or to gear that community to a particular decision that was made by the cabal, okay, by the top elite, the incubella, not the Illuminati. The Illuminati are gophers. Who really won the Illuminati are the incubella. Okay, if you could, I'll send in the type in that word and how to spell it, but one of the top parasites on the planet that deal with these militant orders around the earth is the Black Pope. Okay, he's like the Jesuit general. Okay, and it's the Jesuits under the Vatican that sought out and traveled all over the earth to overthrow governments. That's why back in the day, when the community men found out that you were a Jesuit, they would literally beat your ass and kick you out of the country or throw you in jail, because the only reason a Jesuit would be in the country is to overthrow the government. That's the only reason they would be there. Okay? So much love to this brother. And this is the last words he said to me. Okay? He said, they want you to stay human, but you must become something much greater than that, a God. What you truly are is what they fear. All the mind control was to make sure you don't listen to the subtle, powerful intuition inside you. These were the last words you told me on your dying bed, which at the time I didn't know that this would be the last time I saw you. You were everything to me. You didn't just teach me about life. You also taught me about how to deal with death and letting go. You had the courage to tell me the truth, the angel to my life. What you were to me is what I will be to others. the passing of the torch. And this is him right here. You know, this was like about 3 years ago. Okay, and he just died suddenly, you know, so I wasn't really prepared for it. So I had to kind of step up my manhood there because he was definitely like a father figure to me. All right. So now that we got that out the way, the university topics that we get into further classes is, of course, self-internal alchemy, energy cultivation, cellular transmutation with applied self-knowledge, surrendering to natural law, converting the lower to the higher, the fall of the avatar, the body to the lower forces. Disease is an intelligent mutation of the body to prolong its life. So disease is actually your friend. It's not the enemy that's been pushed by the pharmaceutical cartel, run by the Rothschilds. Again, we have solutions to mineral deficiency. Okay, so that's how the abnormal function of the cell starts to happen due to a mineral deficiency in the body. And the cells start to adapt to that. Okay, what is the true water for the body? It is not H2O, all right? It's actually H3O2, which we get into. We also talk about urine therapy, urine, mother's milk, and semen, all constituents of the blood. And the real nutrition, the true nutrition that repairs the body, actually only comes from the constituents of your blood, all right? We get into the circadian rhythm, how the pineal gland manages the biological clock, okay? So your body, the cells in your body change based on the position of the sun and the moon, all right? We got into the lunar cycles, the new moon, half moon, full moon cycles every 28 days. This is where the word month or month came from, right? But we get into a lot more than that, okay? So just a few topics. Now, the purpose of the university. I dedicate this class to the part of humanity that is severely underdeveloped. If we were to truly taste the quality of life that was designed for us, we would not be as tempted to waste away our life force as we do today. We have defied the laws of life through the ages. Our occult galactic history is supposed to remind us of where we degenerated from. We as humanity have indulged ourselves in habits that force us to forget that there's work to be done inside our hearts, inside our minds. We are not to be blinded by the physical condition, but to have an intrinsic elevation on what it means to be alive in third density. Beloved, without the understanding of metaphysics and spirituality, or having knowledge of self, you're just a toy to be played with in this world. Everybody will take advantage of your ignorance. Your ignorance is a food source. Hear me out. Your ignorance is a food source. Okay? If you ever heard of the term ELF, that's elevated low frequency. All right? And now the current system or the cabal is managing your energy for you. See, we don't know how to manage and conserve our own energy anymore. We now have a cabal or a group that feels like that look at us as cattle, okay? And our ignorance emits out a particular frequency. That's why they say that human thought is a pollution, but it emits out and resonates, emanates a frequency that these particular beings actually see as a food source. Their way of life is in you staying ignorant, okay? So I think for all of us, we can share a common experience that our minds have been a big play toy for dark occultists to walk all over us with extreme doses of mind control and social engineering. If we leave our thoughts unchecked, the world that we hate continues to grow through us. All right? So check it. You ever pay attention to the English language and who designed this language, right? Because remember, when you write a word, you have to spell it, okay? So from you are put into kindergarten and into the alphabet, you go through a spelling test. So they're casting spells on you, and you learn how to cast spells on other people. But it gets interesting when you break down some of the phrases, because notice when you write a phrase in the English language, they put a period at the end and they call it sentence. Okay, they say it's a sentence. Now, if you, let's say that you're in court and you're, the jury finds you guilty, the judge then says what? You've been sentenced to 10 years in prison. So sentence has something to do with being in prison. So there's a sentence that they put you in for the body, the penitentiary, but there's also a penitentiary for the mind. Your mind has been sentenced, okay? Your thoughts have been colonized, and they've colonized the thinking away from the knower. There's a part that came here, and there's a part of you that's intuitive, a higher intuition that's been cut off, okay? And this was intentional. So you've been sentenced to a mental prison in the perception of self. And even if you break down the way they break down the days, right? They say you live in days. But when you look up the word daze, D-A-Z-E, it means to think incorrectly or to not think efficiently, okay? And then we live in days, and then every 7 days, there's weeks. So you grow weaker and weaker, okay? So the wordplay is interesting. And when you look at one of your most sacred centers, besides your pineal, is your solar plexus, your gut area, okay? Where your intuition, where you store your spiritual energy, right? What do they call that? What do they call the area around your navel? They call it waist, your waist. When you're trying to measure to put on some pants, right? So what's the size of your waist? It's not by accident, okay? That waist and waist, just because they kind of changed the wordplay, right? The letters, that doesn't mean it changes the meaning, okay? And this is why they say that the English language is an equivocal language. And equivocal means to mislead, okay? Let's continue. Our world has become starved of the essential ingredient that makes us human. The quintessence of the human experience is to spiritualize physical matter and to physicalize spiritual matter in a balanced and harmonious manner. It is known in the arcane sciences that man has three natures to himself. There's the divine nature of the heavens, the animal nature of the earth, and the human nature, which is the mediator between the two worlds. We are beings of balance. It is man's job to be part of the higher worlds, but not of it. To be part of the lower worlds, earth, but not of it. The balancing of these two worlds is the highest form of living. The quality of life on earth depends on the quality of our desires. The day we truly desire the hidden light is when the world changes. Okay, so if you look at even the chakra system, right? You notice that you have the crown chakra at the top, you have the root chakra representing the earth, right? At the bottom, right? But in the middle is the heart chakra, the balance. Now the heart chakra emanates like a greenish color. If you look at nature, most of nature is green, okay? The trees, the plants, certain animals. And this is no coincidence that the banking cartel, all right, they made money, okay, the fiat currency, they make it green because they make it green to symbolize balance. Now, I'm not saying that they created the whole idea of the monetary system. The monetary system has been here from the ancient days, from our ancestors. But what they did was they charged interest on it, okay? And the governments right now, all governments are broke. All governments are broke. And all governments are now subservient to the central banks because governments get the loans from the central banks. But in order for a government to get a loan, they have to go through, they need a human being. So what they do is when you're born, your mother signs a contract that's cloaked as a birth certificate. It's not a birth certificate. It's masked as a birth certificate. And what it does is by signing that contract, it's the government actually using you or tricking your mother to sign that to use you as collateral. Your labor, your coercive force as a human being, they're using you as collateral to get money from the central banks. You see? So at any time you want a loan, to get a loan, you need to put up something as collateral. So like, for example, when you look at people that get repoed, when their car gets repoed, right? And you want to bail your friend out of jail, some people would put up their car as collateral in case their friend cannot pay off, okay? In case their friend cannot pay off the loan, the bondsman would do is they will go in, if their friend doesn't pay off the loan on the car, they'll come after your car, you see, because you put up your car as collateral, okay? So it's the same thing. All governments in the world are using the citizens and the people, okay, to, they're using the people as collateral to pay off the loan, okay? And there's a lot of information about that. But the reason I bring that up is right now, we at a time where there's going to be a huge financial shift, a shift in consciousness. Even Earth is making some changes right now. There's an upgrade of the Earth that's going on, which we'll get into in this class right now, you see? So again, there's the human being represents the mediator between the higher realm and the lower realms. You see? So let's continue. The purpose of life. A god stuck in its cocoon is a human being. The evolution didn't happen. A man is an unripened fruit, never seeing his true potential. And as he tries to ascend to this, his collective human family treats the whole idea as a myth, a fable, nothing but fairy tales. The biggest secret in life is who and what you truly are. As a fruit becomes ripe, it is less solid and more watery and fluidic. So it is the same with man. In his or her ascension, she becomes less dense. He contains more natural fluids and feels lighter. It is the conservation of natural fluids that produces a genius. Self-knowledge is the only true knowledge. Okay, and that's what the halo represents. When you see the halo around, for example, the religious figures, Jesus, you know, Krishna, Muhammad, it's a certain principle of living where you conserve energy and you build up on cosmic energy in order to make changes in the avatar, okay? So you can fuel up and travel into other realms and wake up your genius. but you got to learn the principalities of living, because we were brought up to just waste away our energy, okay? Our sexual energy, to eat cooked food, because, you know, to eat cooked food, and eat stuff that deplete the body of energy, okay? And that's why we run down later on in life. You see, let's continue. So a human being, a human being is a legion of egregors, like an onion containing many different layers of identities, memories, and even crystallized thoughts and desires of past incarnations being carried over into the following lifetime. It is your goal to peel through these layers and illusions to get back to the core of who and what you truly are. It is not a matter of good versus evil. It's more about taking full responsibility for the mismanagement and abuse of your own creative powers. You now have thought forms that only care about sensations and stimulating the body-mind. It is time to tame the beast and ride it on its back. So basically, family, the problem with humanity is not so much parasites, demons, or even the cabal that kind of, I guess, led us away more or deeper into the thresholds of density. The issue we have is that we do not know how to manage our own consciousness. You see, for example, a parasite can only gain control if your immunity is already compromised. In a healthy, fully functioning individual, a parasite can't really do shit to you. You see? So there's a certain way of thinking, a residual thinking that brings addiction. And it's these addictive thought forms that start to change the bioterrain in the body. Okay? And the bioterrain is like the fluids that bathe the cells, which we get much deeper into further into the classes. You see? So thought forms, addiction, trauma starts to write into the genetics of humanity. You see? And instead of us evolving into each generation, ascending more into more supernatural abilities, into more bringing more order to our community, right? We start to actually descend within in the genetics, because it's in the genes, in the genetics. That's the true Bible. We are the ones that write the script. You see? That's why the precursor to producing any genius is celibacy. A man and woman coming together, being celibate, allowing for the body to refine the fluids. Okay? Now, the founder teaches. The founders and teachings of the ascended masters were to teach the individual the energy cultivation practices on how to conquer death. Conquering death may be far-fetched to the average human. However, this is one of the greatest truths and skill sets on planet Earth. All occult teachings leads the neophyte down the path of physical immortality. The true art of masonry, perfecting one's ship. You are responsible for managing your micro-universe and allowing higher forces to perfect the avatar without the desires and addictions of the conscious mind getting in the way. So there's an inherent process within the universe, in the mind, that's working on the micro within you every second of your life. Every second of your life, okay, is the cells trying to rebuild you back. Every second of your life, detoxification is taking place. Okay? This is why in the church they say that God is always merciful. It's always trying to build you back. Okay? And the purposes of this course is to bring light into meditation. Meditation is an energy cultivation practice. The ascended masters taught their disciples how to cultivate chi, life force energy, through meditative practices such as qigong, kriya yoga, and various breathwork exercises with standing postures that teaches the neophyte how to harness cosmic energy and recharge the avatar back to health. These practices are done day in and day out on a consistent basis, so the neophyte, which just means a newbie, can strengthen the energy channels to harness more of these subtle forces raining down on Earth. This is a skill set and must be taken very seriously, as this skill is the foundation to occult esoteric schools at the highest level. So meditation is much deeper than you just trying to, because, you know, meditation has been so watered down through the hundreds of years, that, the average person just think meditation is just this thing where you sit, you be silent, try to concentrate. And I'm not saying that that's some form of meditation, but that's not what the ancient energy masters were talking about. Okay? Meditation is cultivation. Okay? It's cultivating solar energy. It's cultivating cosmic energy from the stars, from the constellations. It's cultivating energy from the earth. It's relaxing the mind, the body, the soul to bring light into the body. Okay? And to charge up the body, to put the body on a charging port. Now, notice I said the ascended masters taught their disciples how to cultivate chi, life force energy, through meditation. But what is that? What is chi? What is cosmic energy? Chi, in Eastern medicine, is the vital energy that flows through each organ and system of the body. All of these organs and systems are connected by this vital energy. So if an organ is sick, you must look at the entire body to find the cause of illness. This chi, or energy, is found at a molecular level. Western medicine would call this vital energy electromagnetism, which holds the atoms in orbit around each other in your body. Chinese medicine works on the construct that when your body is sick, your chi or energy is out of balance and flow of vital energy, and it must be restored to a healthy flow. Okay? And this is something that's pretty known. You can see this is from Oprah magazine. So that's a mainstream article. Okay? So the stuff that I'm going to talk about, you heard about it, but we actually can bring the core and principality and get into the esoteric part of it. Okay? So again, it's not a belief system. I'm not talking about, this is not pseudoscience. Okay? This is real science and ancient science. Okay? So what you see here to the right, okay, this is Kirlian photography. Kirlian photography is what it does is this technology, it captures the energetic fields in organisms, in trees, in animals, in everything. You see? So to the right, you see the apple. That's the chi energy, the life force energy floating out of it. To the left, okay, this is just a piece of meat, what you would call a cadaver, okay? So for people that believe they eat meat, you do not eat meat. A lion eats meat, a cheetah eats meat, a bear eats meat, okay? Because they actually will eat it fresh. It'll still have some chi energy to it. And they'll eat the whole body. They wouldn't just eat the liver. the leg. But us as humans, what I don't eat meat, but people will eat what you eat is cadavers. You're not eating meat per se, and you're cooking it too. So here's the problem. Now, when you look at the apple to the right, this is why people say it's what? Better to eat raw. But it's better to eat raw if you were able to know the farmer to pick it right from its root, because even when you pick the apple from the tree, it's dying. It's the chi energy you see right here, it'll start to emanate. I mean, it'll start to wither away, so that even apples in the stores don't have the biophotonic life force energy in it. But there is a way to get around it. Even if you don't grow food, there is a way you could still get it. You see? So this is just a picture of to give you a visual representation of this cosmic energy. Okay? And you're only really eating for cosmic energy. You ain't eating the apple for minerals like that. What is a mineral anyway? So why is chi important? The answer is simple. It's what courses through the body along meridians. That's the energy channels. And it also controls the movement of blood, spoken by Jason Wells, a naturopathic physician, doctor, right? So, but it's really much deeper than that. But I just wanted to show you that, this is in mainstream as well. Okay, it's in mainstream. So don't just think this is just some conspiracy theory. This it ain't a fact. This is a conspiracy theory. This is not a conspiracy theory class. But what this is a class for self-empowerment. Okay, the day-to-day practice. Now, a lot of people talk about chi energy and cosmic energy and source energy. But where's it coming from? Where's it emanating from? In ancient Kemet, Egypt, there was an Egyptian goddess called named Nut, N-U-T. Okay? And I want you to connect the word nutrition, right? Nutrition, Nut. And Nut was said to give birth to Ra. Ra is a name for our sun in our solar system. Okay? Now, our sun is also being powered by another energy source, a much bigger energy source, a grand sun, a central sun. And occultists called it the dark star or the black sun. The swastika is symbolic of the black sun. Okay? Ain't got nothing to do with no Nazis or anything like that. Okay? So the black sun is the true, is the true origin of our holographic universe. As the Bible states, from the darkness came the light. It takes our entire solar system, 26,000 approximately, and it varies, 26,452 years to revolve around the dark star. As shown in the picture to the right, the dark star gives off the pranic sustenance to many different galaxies within our cosmic ocean. Here is the source of where the chi energy is emanated from. So this is like, think of this as, you see, the hidden light, and that's what I mean by the hidden light. Think of this as the energy that fuels all the other planets and the suns and the solar system and solar systems, okay? So here, within the dark star, is the original programming of our light bodies to reconstruct and transmute the cells of the human avatar. This is the hidden light that fixates our attention to spiritual evolution. We are at the end of Pisces, moving into Aquarius. What they call global warming is an effect of our solar system getting closer to the dark star, the black sun. We are in a part of the galaxy where there's more chi energy floating in our atmosphere. making it much easier for human beings to become yogis and walk the path of self-mastery. The closer we are to the dark star, the more difficult it is for the powers that be to control and direct the consciousness of human beings. This is why the Bible states there will be heaven on earth. It is the end result of the reconstruction and transmutation that will occur on earth and in our bodies to match the higher light code intentions of the dark star, upgrading matter to spirit. Okay? So even when you look at testament, tester means body and ment means mind. The Old Testament means the old body and mind, the old programming, the old habits of humanity that lead us to death, that lead us to the death culture, okay? The New Testament represents the new body and mind, okay? That's why what you think Jesus was doing when he went out and fasted for 40 days and 40 nights, he wasn't just there sitting and hugging trees. He was doing a sacred practice. And a cultivation practice. Okay? That's what people need to understand. All right? Meditation is deep. It's the foundation to a spiritual life. It's impossible to be spiritual without meditation. Now, here is a two-dimensional pictograph. This is an ancient Hinduism. So we covering different cultures. We going from ancient Chinese to Hinduism, and it's actually all over the earth. Okay, if you go deep enough. All right. So this here is a two-dimensional pictograph of the elliptic orbit of our solar system moving around the dark star or the central sun, which some people will call it. Okay. Now, it's not, I don't like to say central sun because that's misleading, because it's not like directly in the middle, okay? We move like in spirals or in an ecliptic orbit, so it's like, it kind of, you know, there's periods of time where our solar system is far away from what you would call source energy, all right? So this is why they say, okay, what, the end of Pisces going into Aquarius, or in 2012, it was the end of the world. What they were saying, it was the end of an age. That's what the Mayans were talking about. And the Mayans, these cultures, it's not a prediction, okay? I know it's not so much a prophecy, it's more of like an observation, okay? Human behavior starts to become predictable when it's close to source energy and when it's far away from source energy. Like, for example, I trade. I'm a trader in Forex. We have speculations and we predict the market, right? It's not really prediction per se. It's just you've been watching certain patterns over some time and you speculate and you're able to kind of have a good hunch on what's going to happen, right? Or you could, for example, you could live with someone and you just will know their pattern. They wake up, they make some tea, they wake up, they go to eat breakfast, you know, or they do something. They have a certain way they do things, you see? So you could state, okay, tomorrow she's going to do this, he's going to do that. It's not prediction, it's based on observation. So a lot of the prophecy that and where humanity is heading to is based on observations for trillions of years of how human beings act in concordance with source energy, huh? You see? So we have here that now this is up to debate, right? Because in Hinduism, they talk about, they spread these quadrants, right? They call it yugas. And here you could see that they call this right here, this is the golden age, right? So when we, in this part of the ecliptic orbit, we swim in cosmic energy, in life force energy. So our bodies are more fine-tuned, and it's more easier for us to be like yogis and be more supernatural. Okay, this is what they call the golden age, you know, and they say, oh, human beings were able to do all these great things back in the day, and we devolved, you know, like, so it's funny. Here, okay, now you see there's two different parts of the two-dimensional construct, but we get deeper into that later into the class, okay? I do not want to precede the classes, all right? So here, I actually added a few things here. Now, I have a question for you, and you could just answer it in the chat. Did any of you guys watch Doctor Strange? Did any of you watch that movie, Doctor Strange? Okay, you could just type in the chat, yes. Okay, now you remember in the movie with Doctor Strange, he was being taught, you know, some pretty deep stuff from this energy master. It was a woman, okay? It was a white woman on there. She was teaching him all this stuff. And she's an immortal too. She's an immortal. And remember, they talked about tapping into the dark dimension. Y'all remember that, right? Oh, it's forbidden to tap into the dark dimension. And remember, they find out, okay, that she was doing it all along. She didn't tell her students about it. She told her students not to do it. But she was doing it all along. And she was immortal. And notice she had all these supernatural abilities. She could bend matter at will. She could, you know, she had all these things she could do, you know. Now, she wasn't hiding it away from the students just to be powerful. Or, you know, you got some sorcerers that do that to gain control. But a lot of this, you know, some students are just not ready for certain things. They have to build and prepare to be exposed to certain things, okay? So, the dark dimension in Doctor Strange represents the dark star, okay? And an energy master tapping in to source energy, pulling energy from source energy, being a transcriber for that, and being able to, you know, just bring light into the body. Now, okay, this is what is interesting here. In this era here, right here, if you could see my mouse, this is what they call the Dark Age, the Iron Age. This is where evil runs amok, okay? I want you to think of this, the solar system, we going through this big, like, galactic portal or star. This is like the grand year. That's what the ancients call the grand year, okay? This is like one big year, one big day, day and night. So this is like the grand winner right here. People, now everyone in this day and age, in the golden age, okay, it's easy for us to just tap into cosmic energy and do our thing, right? But it's much more difficult to feel the connection when we in the Iron Age in this particular period of the orbit, okay? So notice what I have here is a professional human energy master. They can tap into source energy no matter where they at, no matter what planet or wherever they incarnate. They could tap into it in a meditative energy practice and in a cultivation practice and do supernatural things. And it ain't about just doing supernatural things, but to do certain things that and heal people, you know, like Reiki and stuff like that. And even when you look at Jesus, back in the day, these men were looked at almost as gods, you know, or should I say Yeshua? But the reason is, you see, I have the majority here. The signal here for the majority of humanity is weak. Okay, so we don't really feel that connection to source, to God. You know, we don't feel it like that. Okay, but we have representatives that still in their right mind did the energy work, where it was through a series of incarnations, you see, where they were steady and dedicated to the practice. Okay, meaning, family, you do not, and I can say this now, there is no such thing as being born or being birthed with you just born and you just better than everyone else, or you just have these abilities and you know, you have this birthright and you're more intelligent, you're smarter than humanity. No, what that can be is prior to, before that incarnation, you may have done some type of cultivation. You may have done some type of practice. This is why the yogis up in the Himalayan mountains said that the only thing you carry with you after death is chi energy. So for a man that holds in his semen and does these cultivation practices in this age or in this lifetime, and let's say that he passes on and he cultivated his soul so where he could navigate beyond death, he could incarnate and bring more of what he learned into another body. Now, you may have a series of time where, you know, as a child, you go through that period where you got to be nursed and nurtured, and then you will have these abilities so early in life, and they'll call you an ancient soul. But an ancient soul, understand, it comes from you doing in the moment, okay? You have to have a ritual in the moment. The moment is the only thing that exists. Okay? So this is a skill set. This cultivation, when you see these human beings or these powerful stories, is from a skill set. It's not just I'm born with it and it does not work like that. Okay? It could seem like that with certain people that would incarnate into certain, you know, but okay, the more you cultivate or the more you learn self and how to charge your energy centers, you learn how to what they call spiritualize matter. Okay, because our ancestors, all right, the greatest of them, they did not need to eat or drink. They lived directly off the light. We as beings, we would take energy and convert it into matter. That's why it looks like power, like amazing, you know, powerful. We would take energy and convert it into matter. Now, what you see as the Vatican or the Caucasians, I don't like to use the word Caucasians because it's a certain subgroup of Caucasians, because you know it's like the Neanderthal mix or the reptilian mix. You see, they're more animalistic, and these beings that run the planet that are different from us, that almost are like psychopaths. Notice too that we have there's a whole industry of child sacrifice or of child trafficking and woman trafficking. But the purpose for the trafficking is not because these some evil men addicted to sex and they evil, and they don't see it that way. I know it could seem a little weird in what I'm saying, but if I stand a regular indigenous melanated or just indigenous human to the earth with one of these beings, it's just a matter of difference. It has nothing to do with, it's not just good and evil, okay? It's a matter of difference. These beings that took over the planet, their way of evolution is different from ours. Their way of evolution is through us, okay? So the child trafficking industry, the main reason it exists is for a substance called adrenochrome, okay? Adrenochrome is like a hyperdimensional crack to the Kabbalah, to the elites that drink the blood of the child right when they're about to sacrifice the child. You see, there's a certain in the adrenal glands, the blood is almost like something is emitted out, and there's a charge to it, like a chi energetic charge. And since these beings do not have the certain organs or the central nervous system like a first order human being, their way of channeling energy or living in continuum is through living off the human being as a parasite. You see? So it's much deeper, okay? It's much, much deeper than just, this is just an evil guy and he's worshiping Satan and he wants. No, these beings see it as their way of life. It's just like if you go and if you go to a food store and you buy some chicken, you ain't thinking about how that chicken been hurt or suffered. You have your own agenda. You eat the chicken, I gotta pay bills. So them, even though it's evil, we gotta stop it with this whole child thing and woman and going missing all over the earth. You see, we gotta stop it. But to them, they got other agendas that are going on. They don't see it as something that's evil. You see, and it's a different mindset. It's a whole different mindset. And there's a certain amount of a subclass of human beings that have that particular blood type that more susceptible to having those attributes of the cabal. This is why even here in the Bahamas, they send our passport, or our passport and documentation to England, because they trying to track where that bloodline circulating. You see? And when they could see whichever person throughout the community in that country has the most of that bloodline, they'll put them into a position of power because they're more likely to be a freaking psychopath. Okay? Why you think in Africa those world leaders some of them could just ride past kids that's starving? Because it's not human per se, it's mankind, meaning they're kind of like men, but they're not men. They're not men and women. They would have certain attributes to make it seem like they have empathy, but they don't have empathy. They don't have that spiritual connection. And their way of doing it is through the AI, is through the artificial intelligence. And they're trying to bring together the technology, and they're trying to bring the human DNA, infuse human DNA with the microchip. And they're trying to create this vessel that they could control. This is why in the Matrix, they talked about human beings being used as a battery. They see you as an energy source, and it's up to you. The purpose of this class is for you to gain control of your own energy and not to allow any outside influence, okay, or people that believe they smarter than you to say, okay, well, we can manage your own energy for you. We can tell you what to eat. We can tell you what to think. Even when you walk in the food store in Walmart, you pick up a can of beans, a can of meat, you don't even know what those ingredients are. But they know. They know what it is because they made the choice already. And that's the problem. You don't have to think. We thought for you already. They've colonized thought in humanity. Okay? So there's so that's why you see there's people like me and there's a bunch of different oracles and people that kind of bringing a divine message. And there's an audience for me, there's an audience for you, and there's an audience for a lot of people, because now we stepping into a different age where we realizing like, wow, because there's a high frequency energy hitting the planet. And this high frequency energy hitting the planet is making us rebel against our old habits. Done. Let's continue. So now, in the Taoist theory, the Taoists talk about immortals. And look at what they say. Immortals are beings who ascended to immortality through Taoist cultivation practices such as internal alchemy. They have magical powers, can fly freely through the air, and have a close connection to the Tao, the natural world. Okay? So what are they talking about? This cannot just be, see, people think they just reading some comic book when it comes to mythology, and it's just this, you know, symbolic and all about it. It's just all symbolic. Not all of it is just symbolic. What are they talking about when they say cultivation practices? You see? What are they? And so there is, and let me don't precede the class. Let's continue. Now, remember what I said, going back to this, an energy master, a human being that have the capability of being immortal, if so choose be, because there's a book called The Autobiography of a Yogi, where students would say there were some energy masters that had even 2 bodies. You see, there's so much that we don't know. Okay, but this peculiar set of human beings that don't die, they only have a few disciples, if not every decade. And then the disciples are the ones that go out to the public and think about it and kind of dilute it in a way, water it down, and they make some of the cultivation public. Okay? Why do you think the church says, oh, well, the Bible was written by man, right? Inspired by God, or there were these men that were inspired by God, or these are the cultivators, okay? These are the ones that have learned how to master their energy. And if you live for thousands of years, just think of what you've learned or how you've expanded on the light. This is the most popular one of the popular ones, called Babaji, the immortal Himalayan yogi. Now, Babaji, who they say is up in the Himalayas, but he could appear to you in your dreams, he's featured in the book Autobiography of a Yogi. Read that book. It's very interesting. You see? So from this article, it says Babaji is a revered East Indian saint the world over. Sorry for that typo. I just kind of, got it from the article. Babaji's physical presence came into being on November 29, 203 AD. That's what they say. As a young boy, Babaji began his spiritual studies before his teens, learning from sages and gurus after being orphaned, sold into slavery, and then bought and freed by a wealthy and kindly trader. The term Babaji means revered father in the East. The young sage, after studying with a powerful guru, attained immortality at the age of 16, when a golden body of light filled his presence. In the midst of his spiritual practices, he has been on the planet ever since and has, as he vowed this to his sister Madahai, to always stay in form on the planet. According to those who've encountered this yogi, he lives in the Himalayas with a small group of disciples and appears to people the world over in dreams and in the physical to instruct spiritual learning, give kindly advice, or where help is needed. Okay? Babaji can appear at any time, in any place, or in any form. Okay? And you can read about him in Autobiography of a Yogi. This amazing and powerful Maha Avatar is one of many helping to guide and balance all life, animate and inanimate on the planet. So the problem I have with a lot of the conscious community today is they talk too much about the evil of what's going on and give too much power at times to the cabal when there are very powerful beings here on the planet and even human beings that have been lingering around on the planet for thousands of years that help with the spiritual evolution of the planet. And these human beings are also representatives to this planetary system. And I know that for my flat earthers out there, you would be like, well, how do you know space exists? And how do you know? Well, space is it's like an ocean, okay? It's almost like an ocean, like a wave of energy. And you do have a hydrogen compressed dome that's like a canopy overlaid over the earth. You see, it's not round like NASA says, but I don't know if it's flat. Obviously, I don't know, but I definitely don't believe NASA. You see? So yeah, so these energy masters and these holy books represent these founded teachers, but it was passed on by mouth. It wasn't really passed on by book. It was really, and it's still passed on by mouth. Ain't nothing changed. Ain't nothing new under the sun. You think that even back in the day, these masters, they only appear to people that ready, you see? Because you can't, you got people that see, oh, yeah, this alien came. And I'm not saying that aliens don't exist. I'm just saying that due to our distorted bodies, we wouldn't be able to really take in that high message, because a lot of us are on survival. Let's be real, you see? And even having some brothers here in Freeport, we know here in Freeport, man, a lot of people, they ain't thinking about this. They thinking about how to alleviate their suffering, you see? So this is another more tangible example. If this is too far-fetched, because you can say, Mark, that's a sketch, you ain't, but it's out there. It ain't just him, it's more than Baba G. The Taoists have even 7 to 9 immortals that they talk about and more. And you think that they making this up? You think that it's just a comic book? What you even think the comic is about? Okay? The superheroes. Let's continue. So another one that's more tangible, right, to someone that could be skeptical, all respect to you, you have every right to be, you know what I mean? But remember this. Bruce Lee told his students, the point is not to agree or disagree, but to grow. How's it growing? To grow, okay? It don't matter, you agreeing or disagreeing, that's not the point. It's to expand your consciousness. It's to grow. It's to know it's more. It's much more than what was downloaded into our DNA from the ones that conquered our ancestors, from this stupid curriculum that came from the Vatican. Okay? So Li Qingyong is a Chinese herbalist. He lived to be around they say around 250, 280, kind of, He was a Qigong master and, heavy into cultivation. All right? Spend a lot of time in nature. And you don't have to live perfectly in nature. Just because you in the city, that's not an excuse. They got parks in the city. There may be other areas more conducive. You know what I mean? But, we don't want to make excuses, right? So remember, we talked about chi energy, right? Life force, but that's what the Chinese calls it, chi energy. Let me show y'all something. All ancient cultures, inventors, scientists, researchers had names for life force energy. Chinese is chi, Japanese is ki, kai. The Hindus call it prana, mana by the Polynesians, bioplasmic energy by the Russians, orgone by Dr. William Rilch. I think he got into the orgone energy for a lot of, the electric magnetic pollution from the power lines and 5G and stuff, Tachyon energy, Nikola Tesla, universal fluid, Ka. The Egyptians called it Ka, okay? So you see the wide array of different names: Elima, Hasina, Oki, Oranda, universal Gur, the fluid of life. And it's even more names to this life force energy. So you could be all over the place reading books, thinking they talking. Everyone is talking about the same thing through their lens and their perspective and their label. Ain't no need to argue. Hippocrates, the healing power of nature, elliptic energy, psychotronic energy. There's so many names to it. Auric energy, bioplasma, force X, pyramid energy. Oh, we got more. Kirlian, remember the Kirlian photography, Kirlian energy, psionic, scalar waves. Could go on and on. Reiki. This is not pseudoscience, okay? This is real. Everyone talks about it, everyone. And meditation is meant to build your connection with that. strengthening the energy channels, the meridians. Meditation practices are meant to strengthen the energy channels so the body can hold more light. It is equivalent to learning how to charge up the body with chi energy, similar to charging up a phone. Meditation is an active principle in which one makes contact with life force energy consciously, because we all do it unconsciously 24/7. It is deeper than just silencing the mind or sitting down finding inner peace. No, this is a skill set taught by the ancient energy masters on how to spiritualize the avatar to newer and higher degrees of consciousness. It is the most powerful skill set on the planet and is the key to conquering death. Fasting and diet alone will not sustain you and is not the foundation to holistic life. Oh, you ain't gonna hear that a lot, okay? Fasting, so for example, if you go on Monday and don't eat, let's say you have one who's a cultivator, one that knows how to cultivate cosmic energy. Then you have one that doesn't really meditate or don't know. So he doesn't eat on Monday. And then the cultivator doesn't eat on Monday, but the cultivator meditates and brings in energy. The cultivator is not fasting. You're bringing in energy even more efficiently. Fasting and cultivating are two entirely different things. Fasting is temporary, okay? Fasting is good for healing and cleaning up. But you can't fast your way onto the light. You got to cultivate the energy. You see, so it's more powerful. The real fast is really a mental fast. Someone that just not eating, but they streaming on their phone all day, talking, watching Netflix, you're not fasting. You still stimulating the brain and it's still causing some type of emotional reaction to an extent. The truth about fasting is a method to cleanse the body of toxins and disciplines the mind to attempt to gain rulership over the somatic body cells. However, fasting is not enough and can do damage to the body over time, especially if one does not learn these energy cultivation practices. Meditation is the art of surrendering to the higher cosmic forces and allowing these subtle ethers to nourish the cells. The neophyte, the newcomer, learns how to switch to another energy source instead of fossil fuels, dead plants, and dead animals. All your life, family, even all of us, we were only taught how to live off of dead plants and dead animals. But there are other energy sources that you can thrive on, where the cell could transmutate itself slowly to live more off of the ethers, where you ain't living like an animal every day in survival, slave to food, slave to sex, slave to the deadly sins, you know? So meditation is about shifting to another energy source. It's like, even if you, like what Ella Tom, when he talked about, and it was a good example, he talked about a hybrid. You got a Prius that have two different energy sources. It could run on oil or it could run on electricity, on electric. You're a hybrid. You are a conglomerate of different beings. You have many different bodies, but I ain't even gonna get into that right now, you know? So you're a conglomerate of different beings, you see? They even say that there was a council of higher beings that put together the human DNA, all right? You think the whole, what it is, Elohim, El meaning God, Ohim is plural, the gods, and then they said, let us make man in our image. It was a council of intelligent engineers. We, in session 6, we actually talk about more what they are, you know? So let's continue. Fasting is a tool. I see someone type in the chat. Oh, someone wants to join in. Yeah, they can. You know, I don't No problem. Fasting is a tool. Contrary to popular opinion, fasting does not nourish the body. It first helps with getting rid of obstructions and opens the doorway to taming the monkey mind. What fasting actually does is that it accelerates the materialization of a new intention into the body cells. The spark inside the body must have another source of nourishment to continue to live. This button ain't, let me see, button don't want to work. Okay, now hear this out, family. The body is a technology. Once fine-tuned, becomes an efficient feedback mechanism for the cosmos. The problem is the current hierarchy of our cells act as animals. Yes, we have animal cells that are addicted to the physical plane. They cannot synthesize higher instructions for the next upgrade of our avatar. Just as our world perfects technology, the universal mind is always perfecting on the avatar to perfect the signal and connection. You must change your mind. You must change what it is that you do, eat, and think. And in concordance, the body cells die and are replaced with a new intention. The body actually thinks it's helping you right now. It does not have to be evil. It's just the instruction you gave to the cells. That's all it is. Remember that parasite that people talking about that, oh, the parasite is doing this to me and that. Ain't no parasite doing that to you. Maybe as an end result now, but it was the indoctrination. It was maybe the emotional trauma. It was the eating. It was the thinking, the subscribed thinking that you have. Okay? The art of where you think and you create these residual thought patterns that cause emotional reactions, and it makes you go eat. It makes you want to have lustful sex all the time. And these cells are not, so for example, let me say this. The higher self, okay, the higher intuition is the ancestor in you, okay? There is no greater counsel or spiritual, what it is, spiritual, what do they call it, initiation than your own intuition. You could get initiated in the Freemasons, the Knights Templars, the Rosicrucians, and whatever it is. You could build your altar, try to call on whoever, but there's no greater initiation, no greater spiritual avenue than your own intuition. That's what this class for, is to just direct you to your own intuition. And in all essence, I am not really the teacher. I'm just a spokesperson for the teacher. That's what they call the oracle. The oracle is a tool that your higher selves use to, or your intuition use to wake yourself up. So it's like this class is like an oracle, you see? So again, this is to gear you towards your intuition, and your intuition lies within your gut. It starts there. Your energy is trapped in your gut. That's why most people think with their ass in the anal, the root chakra, and it ain't rising back, it's not rising back up. You see? So the ancestor in you, the parent, has a responsibility to manage the thought forms and the energy, the entities that it created, okay? So you have infant-like energies. The parasite in you is like a child. It don't care about the higher reality. It don't care about your purpose. That parasite only care about, I want fries. I want sex. I want ice cream. You know, I want attention. So it's not intelligent. It's more of nature dictating to you, okay? And I don't want to precede the classes, but again, it's up to you. There's an array of different there's an array of different personalities that you have, and you have to go within yourself and counsel yourself as the ancestor, the parent, I am talking to the parent. I'm not talking to the one that's been traumatized from childhood or addicted to food, or I'm talking to the parent inside you, the ancestor, the master, the genius. When human beings are born, 98% are geniuses. By the time and this is a true study, by the time we turn 7, it drops down to like what, 55, 60%. But guess what? By the time when we get in our late 20s, 30 years old, you know how far it drops? 2%. And I'm going to find the article on that. The geniosity drops down to 2%. So there's something dormant inside you, and they want to keep it asleep. But it's you. And I can be real. I ain't trying to put the blame. We doing it to ourselves. That's what we doing. When you go to sleep and your body knock you out to cleanse you, your body trying to cleanse you from the dumb shit you doing to yourself every day, not what someone else imposed on you. So this is all on you. This ain't to create no scapegoats, but I have to say the source as to why the direction of our culture took place, because there are beings, you could call them demons, you could call them reptilians, you could call them whatever you want. The name don't mean nothing. The fact of the matter is they live off of us almost as an energy source. But it's up to us now to fuel our own energy. Somatic animal cells. The somatic cells of the body are the cells that are responsible for renovating the human temple due to the current habits of man. When a want becomes a need, you actually change the mind of your cells and the way they function. The cell can never be reprogrammed. They must die and must be replaced with another cell that has a new conditioning. Man, mum alf nun. When I say man, for the ladies in here, I am not saying man as in male, okay? So don't think I'm just being biased on male. Man does not represent male. Mum alf nun represents the masculine and the feminine principle, you see, and the child, the Holy Trinity, right? So it represents the masculine and the feminine, you see? Man, because remember, a woman is a man, just a man with a womb. Man represents mind, a spark, a consciousness that descended down from the higher realms into the lower realms to experiment and experience what it already knows, which again, get into that later. So the cell can never be reprogrammed. They must die and be replaced with another cell that has a new conditioning. Man was never a part of the animal kingdom. Can I say that again? You were never a part of the animal kingdom. You were never that. You may be a hybrid to where you could be and live like an animal, right? We are a degenerative expression of an original, highly spiritually advanced race. Holla if you hear me on that. We have degenerated due to the somatic appetite, robbing us of our vitality and perpetual cycle of youth. Trauma, food addiction, all these things that took place. Lust, oh, that's a big one, because you lose a lot of sexual energy. And it's the sexual energy is actually how you fuel yourself up to get into higher dimensions, you see? But again, if you are if you're trying to hold on to sexual energy and you don't even know how to cultivate, that's another a disaster that can take place. You can't know one and not the other. So, the bottom of the pyramid, okay, so this is here. This is actually in my book. I am putting together a book. It's going to take some time because I got 2 books I'm working on, one for trading and one for this, you know. But this is more important, much more important. So, especially I want to kind of gear it towards Bahamians as well. A lot of the world, but, you know, I'm trying to do more here, You know, that's why I was trying to pass these classes around to some brothers. So the pyramid, you know, let me just read it off. The bottom of the pyramid represents an absence of chi, life force energy. So now the thermometer measures one continuum, which is temperature. Both hot and cold are identical in nature. However, it represents temperature expressing itself in different degrees. It is the same with the pyramid that measures one continuum, which is the mind, consciousness. Both ignorance and intelligence are just a representation of the mind being expressed at different degrees. This is why in Freemasonry, in college, they reward you with degrees, okay? Just as a cold is the absence of heat. See at the bottom here, the bottom of the thermometer represents the absence of something, okay? The absence of heat. Ignorance is the absence of self-knowledge, which is at the bottom of the pyramid. The bottom represents the absence of something, okay? So the vast majority of humanity at the bottom is like, we like walking zombies, okay? All of us are drug addicts to something. And it changes the nature of the cell. And the cell never gets to rebuild or change the body, the universal intelligence that works upon the cell never gets to finish its work because we have sins that sways it away from the original intention. You see, that's what happens. It's like you keep sticking yourself with the needle and hurting yourself from self-abuse, but then we go and blame the Illuminati, white supremacy, the Vatican, the niggers, whatever it is, we put a blame, and do not ever create a scapegoat in your life. Don't ever do that. The quickest way to power is to blame yourself for everything. Because when you take responsibility, you make the change. You make the necessary change, okay? So the bottom of the pyramid represents the spiritually poor. Humans that decided to stay in their cocoons as intelligent animals instead of self-sustaining gods. The holy books in all religions are meant to be spiritual guides by the ascended masters for the human to awaken an embryonic seed or body that lies dormant within us all. Oh boy, there is a body that exists within you, that grows off you. Just like how a caterpillar, okay? Within the caterpillar is the butterfly lying dormant. There's a butterfly or another type of vessel in you that stays dormant. And that there is the biggest and greatest work of the sorcerer of the Vatican, of the, what we call the powers that be or were. Keep that shit dormant. Keep it dormant. You see? So they want, at the bottom here, they want you to have just enough chi energy, just enough to get up and go to work, just enough to go to school, just enough to make babies, just enough to be somewhat intelligent to where we could give you a manual so you could fix this machine, but not intelligent enough to invent, not intelligent enough to tap into your own creativity. They don't want you to ever test a curriculum, okay? They want us to stay in survival and to make money our God. When there is no money, and remember, like I said earlier, the governments have no money. They used us as collateral to get loans from the banks, and they putting the debt on us. We are the money. We are the money. Even if a millionaire came to an island, if there weren't broke people working in them stores to serve them, what does he really have? If there ain't no broke people around, quote unquote, broke people to serve him in the restaurant or in the store, what if everyone had $1 million and there weren't any servants? Would we be rich then? It's all a damn illusion, man. Ain't none of that exists. So, the average human being does not have a fully grown soul, but instead a soul seed. We have a soul, but it's not fully grown. It's just a seed, an embryo. And the sad case for many of us is that that gestation period has not even begun. Actually, for the vast majority of humanity, it never begins. We die without ever seeing that part of ourselves, without ever seeing the process even take place. Because our minds and thoughts impede the process. To be more accurate, we have a soul in potential. That's right. To brag about having a soul without the energy cultivation practices. It's like bragging about having mango seeds without ever planting them in the soil and not knowing how to nurture it. Allowing nature forces to do its work. So in conclusion, having a mango seed does not mean you will ever taste a mango. So get it right. You have a soul seed, not necessarily a soul. Most people don't have a soul. They have soul potential. Soul potential. Soul is an integrative technology within the body. It is not the spirit. Spirit and soul are two different things. Soul is a vessel. It's a technology within you, within your sexual gonads, in your body. But in order to grow it, it takes a certain practice. It takes a certain type of breathing deep into the sexual gonads. Okay? That I've been that I took some time to practice it before even putting it in the class. You see? Took some time. I don't know if I just did this in the past life, but some things kind of came to me, you know. And I had some impressions from a lucid dream and an out-of-body experience as well. You see? So, yeah, man. Let's continue. So, in conclusion, family, as we wrap this up, this is the free complimentary class. All right, as we wrap this up, there is an energy source that exists that they call the hidden light. Masons, Freemasonry, they call this cultivation the great work. It's the greatest work you could do on self, allowing forth the seed to grow and cultivate the seed. And you can come to know what that belly on Buddha represent. That represent a pregnancy, a gestation period that take place. So just to show you next, these are the classes coming up. If you want to take it to the next level, okay? This is for 7 sessions. And some of these classes, like 3 or 4 of them, go for 3 to 4 hours. So it's a lot of knowledge that we put out there about everything, about the secrets about urine, about semen, about menstruation. You know, it's like, it's just even about nurturing a genius, all this stuff. I think it's really unique and valuable, and I put so much time into structuring it. So next class, that's January 26th. That's supposed to be next Sunday. Session 2, I talk about the fall of man, okay? The transmutation of the avatar from the higher forces to the lower forces. We talk about the 2 different accounts of creation. And, you know, we get deep into that, into the fall of man. This 3rd class, February 2nd, is disease is the redeemer. Disease forces the sufferer to learn. Disease is the language of health and should be embraced and not feared. And I ain't gonna lie, disease is exactly the same as health. It's just health trying to free itself from foreign thoughts. Disease is your friend. It's your misinterpretation of bodily processes that kills you. It's our lack of understanding disease that kills us. People die because they don't want to change. It ain't because of disease. Session 4 is rebuilding the avatar. True nutrition only comes from the constituents of one's own blood. The avatar produces its own food. We get deep into bringing the biochemistry as to what even the halo means and the horn of the demon, because we were bred to be demons. You see? Next, what is meditation? Practices that lead the neophyte to be sustained by the higher forces. Session 5. Session 6, cultivating the inner light, preparing for the cosmic currents emanating from the dark star. Okay, that's a long one too. Session 7. Now, session 7 is, I'm going to create some videos with the practices. And it's Qigong, it's Dantian breathing. We may do some pranayama. Holotrophic breath work is a breath work to reveal emotional trauma. It's a psychotherapy breath work. Embryonic breathing, okay? That's the cult. If you're doing semen retention, you got to learn embryonic breathing. You got to, because that's how you nurse the baby, okay? That's how you nurse that, the soul in you, and then you could rise it up to the pineal gland. And then you have reverse abdominal breathing. That is a Kung Fu breath work that I just added to the course for session 3 because I took some time to practice it. I do not put it in if it's based on what someone else. It's a personal experience for me, okay? Reverse abdominal breathing. This Kung Fu breath work is how you draw chi energy into the energy center, okay? And you kind of, you bring it into the lower dantian. It's an energy center below the navel, but it's some minor details. It's not that, it takes some practice. It takes a while to get it, but you got to be consistent. Like I did some Kung Fu breath work even before I was helping set up my father's birthday and stuff like that. And, I was able, even when I was working, doing things, I was just able to work for 10 hours. Barely didn't eat, barely didn't drink, and then, you know what I mean? I drank some water, I guess, if I would get thirsty to an extent, but, it really charges you up, and you get the hang of it, though. It takes time. And then we have Falun Gong exercises. Desmond, I know you probably know this one. Since you Chinese, I know, I love Falun Gong, too. I love the whole concept of the law wheel. Now you could create a law wheel to emanate energy in front of you. It's really interesting. So I do a mix of Qigong with Falun Gong, and it's really interesting. You see? So again, the session 1 is complimentary. I'm sure I just want to, and just know, I just want to give value in general. I did promise that session 1 would at least spark like to expand more. You see, for my Bahamian brothers in here, you just message me and you in the class and stuff like that. I'll let you know what we could do with that. The class is $200. We do payment plan. And, it's just so you have the value in it. You have the recordings with you forever. You carry it with you, with your kids, your family. But I know I've never gotten a bad review. I've never, ever gotten a bad review. People really enjoy these classes. We enjoy each other. And I add you to a Telegram group with the other previous students of session 1 and session 2. And it's like we just kind of friends in a community, and we almost like talking about just getting together and, maybe going to retreat somewhere. So it's like you also building on a community too, in a sense, you see? So yeah, man, it's really good. That's all I really have to show today. Hope I didn't keep you for too long. If anyone wants to chime in and ask a question, that's fine, or you could private message me. I would prefer, if you do want to enroll, you haven't before Sunday, next Sunday, I prefer just let me know if you're really interested. But I really appreciate you guys coming through. I just, even if for people that don't even enroll, I still appreciate your attention. You even taking the time to just come in and just give just to listen, man. Because you don't know me personally, you may know some posts and stuff like that. But I can tell you, man, my heart is in the right place. I've been in the underground doing this, enlightening brothers and sisters, and for quite some time, man. And this change is everlasting. It's not me just buying food and giving it to the poor, which is, that's a kind heart, but that's only for that one day. That's only for that one day. This here is an impression that's everlasting. You change one person like this, you change 1,000. So much love. Much love, man. I'm going to stop the recording.